Here we go. Hey, there we go. Hey, party people. So good to be with you again today. Can you believe we're already 2 weeks into the new year? 2 weeks. And 80% of people who set New Year's goals have already given up on them. Can you believe it? In fact, 92% aren't going to achieve any of their goals this year. And that means that most people are going to finish this year in much the same way as they ended last year. And maybe they ended the year before the same way too. And they're probably struggling with the same relationship issues. They're probably in the same job they don't like, surrounded by people they don't really want to be around. They're still battling with not getting enough sleep and not eating right and not being in good enough shape and hoping just one more cappuccino will get them through the day. I just want to challenge you here. Wouldn't it feel awful if 1 year from now you look back on 2024 and it looks a lot like 2023 or 2022 or the year before that? Because when we fail to meet our goals, believe it or not, that can set us back psychologically and emotionally. And that can leave us discouraged and frustrating. And that's no way to progress through the year. How depressing. Well, and if you're a high performer who's already starting to fall short of your goals, but you've got to do something to make changes in your life this year. Today, I'll reveal in this video the 3 barriers that stand in your way of achieving more. And these are significant barriers that lead to self-doubt and lower levels of confidence. And I don't have to tell you, to win this year, to win the year, you've got to be all in. You've got to be fully present and summon the best of who you are each day and be deliberate about how you live each day. So to do that, overcoming these 3 barriers are really going to be a game changer for you this year. And I'm excited to talk with you about them because I've been there too. And I've learned some hard lessons about what happens when I give up on my goals. I don't do that anymore. I understand what these 3 barriers are. I know how they show up, and I've developed routines and habits to overcome them. And that's why I'm continuously and consistently progressing in my life by overcoming these barriers. And I want that for you too. And if you're like me and you've experienced trauma in the past and you're working on healing it, the truth is that's another barrier that can really get in the way of achieving your goals. But it doesn't have to be that way. And today I'm going to explain why. I'm excited that you're here. But before we dive in, I want to just pause for one community announcement. Let me bring up my slides here. And some of you those of you that follow me are familiar with this story. Many of you know I've been shepherding an Afghan interpreter and his family since April of last year. And I can't tell you anything about them because they're in hiding. They're in hiding because the Taliban are chasing after them. And they're doing that because this brave interpreter helped American forces during the war there and was so singularly responsible for saving American lives. And since he's in hiding for his life. He can't work. And if he can't work, he can't feed and care for his family. So I'm asking you to help me keep this family going while they wait to cross that last hurdle with the State Department and get their visa so they can legally immigrate to the U.S. And these are exactly the kind of people we want here in our country. They're patriots. They love America, and they've been willing to put their lives on the line for a country they've never been to. And I believe that's admirable and worthy of support. Now, it costs $500 a month to feed and house this family. There are 9 members of this family. So I'm going to continue to ask as long as they are still in hiding and waiting to be free. Whatever you can offer to help this family survive, I ask that you consider doing that by going to the website of Project Dynamo, or you can go right to the website. Just go to Google, just Google Project Dynamo, or go to projectdynamo.org, and you can donate to support this family, or you can just scan this QR code, and that's going to take you to their donation page. Project Dynamo is a nonprofit dedicated to helping save our Afghan heroes that put their lives on the line for us. And I just wanted you to assure you that your donation is tax deductible, and 100% of it's going to reach this family, but only if you remember to write food in the comment portion of the form you'll complete when you donate. So again, to ensure 100% of your tax deductible donation goes directly to this family, you must write food in the comment section. So I just want to say again, on behalf of this family, because they feel your donations, they're safe, they're living in a safe space, they're under constant guard, constant watch, they're being protected, and the State Department can't move fast enough to help this family clear the last hurdle before they're cleared to immigrate to the United States. So again, go to projectdynamo.org/donate, and then enter food in the comment to ensure that 100% of your tax deductible donation reaches this family. I can't thank you enough for supporting me and the family, as I'm doing this alone, and I cannot do it all myself. 9 people is a lot of people to take care of, and $500 a month is going to get them through the month. So thank you for your support in getting them this far. Let's get them across the finish line together. All right. Now, let's get going with today's topic. Anyone can have goals, but doing the work, showing up faithfully and summoning the best of yourself can be a huge challenge. If you aren't living into those goals and following a framework, an architecture that keeps you very focused on the needle-moving actions and the next right steps of integrity that you need to do every day to win this year. And when I talk about winning the year, I talk about fulfilling your deepest desires for yourself. Because when that drive or energy is missing from your life, it creates stagnancy. And that is when you give up on your goals. That's when you get discouraged and frustrated, and your confidence starts to take a hit. So to set up and structure your life, you need to build a compelling architecture that keeps you on track. And you do that through self-examination. Well, why is that? We start with self-examination because you've got to understand if your current philosophy of life is aligned with the goals that you're setting for yourself. And if it's not, if your philosophy of how you live your life isn't aligned with your goals, I'm just gonna tell you, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, because there's a high likelihood that your goals are not going to be met, simply for that reason. But it's not hard to shift if you know how. So let me show you by giving you a framework. I gave this framework in past teachings, but I want to repeat it again because it's a perfect place to start. Now, last time we talked about a very simple idea, and that is, if you're going to have an extraordinary year, the first thing that you must do is decide that you're going to have an extraordinary year. It's to make a decision. You made that decision because at some point there has to be this very clear delineation between where you were last year and where you want to be this year. I think of it in the military sense of a line of demarcation, that every day from now on, from this day forward, I intend to live into an extraordinary quality of life. It has to be a decision. It has to be an intention that you're willing to go all in on, to commit fully on in order to achieve it. And there's a very simple model for how you set up and structure your life. And it's all about your desires, routines, goals, and tasks. Now, the reason so many people give up on their goals is because they aren't in alignment with them. They aren't in alignment with how they want to live their life. They aren't in alignment with their deepest desires either. They either want to make more money or fit into last year's jeans. It's a goal that almost everyone sets for themselves at the beginning of a new year. Want to make more money, fit into last year's jeans, quit smoking, start working out. But making the same goals as everyone else makes, it just isn't a way to live into what you desire for your life. So your chances of achieving your goals aren't really dependent on the number of goals you have. They're dependent on your awareness of your desires and the routines that you set up to achieve them. Goals come later, as you see in this framework here. And goals are really outcomes you need to achieve as you do the routines that move you closer to your desires. I share the word goals with you because it's a common word we can all relate to. But I think of goals as outcomes I want to achieve in the routines that I execute every day to move me closer to my deepest desires. You know, maybe 10% of people are really clear about what they want in their life, which is really kind of scary because let me ask you this question, and this is a question that I ask of all of my clients. Do you have clarity about what you want at this stage of your life? Some people know what they're going to do tomorrow or next week or next month, but is it really what they want to do? Is it aligned with their desires? If you feel like you're missing a certain drive or joie de vivre, maybe you're lacking passion. It isn't there because you're just actually lacking clarity about what you desire at this stage of your life. So whenever you set up your goals, whenever you want to create outcomes in your life, start big. Start big by thinking and asking, what do I want at this stage of my life? What makes sense at this stage of my life? And think big. No limitations when you do that. Get clear on that first. Let's talk about routines after your desires. Once you're clear on what your deepest desires are in your relationships, in your career growth, in your health and well-being, and what you need to become more in your life, then we can start talking about routines. Most people don't know their desires, so they don't have routines to constantly manifest those desires. That's why lots of people develop negative self-talk and then end up spending the day wandering through it kind of aimlessly, not really achieving much, and meandering through the year. They don't have any routines that are moving them toward the extraordinary life they wish for, day after day, week after week, month after month. And before you know it, another year goes by and you aren't any closer to your desires than you were when you discovered them. For 90% of Americans, the goals that they write down are tasks. And that's why they're just kind of, they're wondering when March comes, why nothing has changed. It's because they wrote down some tasks in January that didn't achieve any outcomes that were part of a routine that would help them manifest their desires. So I would challenge you, look at your goals. Are they really goals or are they tasks? Did you develop routines that stem from your desires so you can create the outcomes to achieve your desires? Most people don't think this way. That the reason you want to work with a mentor or a coach or someone who's achieved something beyond you is because they have a different architecture. They have a different mindset. And how you approach this structured framework is everything. And when you really get this, you'll get super excited about being more strategic so you can be more in command of your life every day. So if you don't mind, let me belabor desires just a little bit more, because it's super important you're clear on what they are and why understanding this is a game changer to feel more fulfillment in your life too. Everyone has higher desires in their life. After safety, shelter, and sustenance, your desires are the things you feel are most important to you. Research shows that most of our desires come down to 4 primary desires, and whatever your highest desires are in your life, they probably fit into one of these 4. And let me show them to you now. The first is aliveness. Aliveness. Some people think of that as passion or enthusiasm or high levels of energy. Everyone on the planet, every human being wants to wake up in the morning feeling a sense of aliveness. Seeking higher levels of aliveness is the cause for so many actions you take in your life. Again, this could sound like passion or spiritual energy or purpose or fitness, but the truth is all those things are a search for aliveness in your life. So you must seek to feel free from frustration, pain, and self-hatred. And the way to do that is to ask yourself if you've set up the daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly routines that support your pursuit for your unique levels of aliveness each day. And then we have deep connections. Everyone wants to have deep connections with others in their life. It provides them with a sense of belonging. It helps them feel seen and heard and understood and valued. Dissatisfaction in life usually has nothing to do with you, but with the quality of the relationships that you keep. Better relationships and deeper connections with yourself and others and the universe equate to a happier life. So focus on the routines that are going to improve your relationship. Instead of the tasks, focus on those routines because they'll help you achieve your desire of having deeper relationships. Too much in this world is left to chance, but you can make radical shifts in the most important relationships of your life when you create the architecture to support this desire. And then next, meaningful pursuits. Finding purpose and feeling more fulfilled is all about pursuing something that gives your life meaning. Thinking about it and taking no action is going to detach you from your meaning. So commit and pursue your desire with real purpose, with real enthusiasm and passion. Everyone wants to chase after something, to pursue something that gives themselves meaning, meaningful pursuits. And finally, in the middle, growth. Everyone wants to become a better version of themselves. Everyone desires more in their life, more relationships, more responsibility in their career, more pay for the work they do, more fulfillment in their life, more travel, more adventure, more laughter, more happiness, more confidence. And that's all part of growth. To grow in aliveness, in relationships, and in what you do, you need to understand it's a continuous journey. And after you achieve one goal, it's all about staying committed to your growth and to asking what comes next. So this is your architecture for success in this year, party people. When you get clear on what your deepest desires are, then create strategic routines that move you toward them with clear outcomes or goals. You'll start executing tasks at the tactical level that are aligned with your philosophy of living, and you'll start achieving more growth and change in your life than you ever thought possible. But it all has to work together. You can't just do just part of this and expect to be successful. Remember what you need to do. Show up faithfully and summon the best of who you are. And that's why building this community is so important to me, because together we can move mountains and change the world. Together we can support each other in creating an extraordinary quality of life as individuals, as families, and as a community. And who you surround yourself with will determine how successful you are this year in achieving your desires. So remember, desires, routines, goals, and tasks. But why don't people stay aligned with these? Well, usually it's because of three simple reasons, three barriers, and that's the whole topic of our conversation here. But I wanted to tee it up for you so that it makes sense when I present it to you. And number one is something called mental distortion. Mental distortion. Let's just call it good old-fashioned negative thinking. Okay, you hit a roadblock. And when you hit a roadblock, you immediately go into negative evaluation. And then you stop. Now, lots of other people, the exact same roadblock, but they keep going. So what's the difference? It's mental distortion. It's negative thinking. Let me give you a metaphor. What happens is you zap, like your progress gets zapped. Let's use that as a metaphor, okay? Here's what happens. All right. You, first of all, it's an acronym, and if you're a member of the military, you know all about acronyms and how they work. It's an easy one to remember. Just write it down and start committing it to memory. Z and ZAP means you zoom in and catastrophize. What does that mean? Well, like all these good things are happening in your life, right? Life is good, but then a little negative thing starts to happen. And then you zoom in and catastrophize it, right? You miss the whole big picture. And that thing, you zoom into it and you go, well, that's terrible. This is going to be ruinous. I'm no good. This is awful. I'm stopping. Psychologists like to call it an all or nothing bias. You go, it's not going perfect, so F it. And you throw out the baby with the bathwater. I have no idea why we say that, but you understand what that means. See, what's happening in this picture that you see is just like that person, you're in a constant stream of consciousness, a constant stream of progress. And there's all these things that are happening in your mind at the same time. You're moving, and what happens in one of your efforts maybe doesn't go right and sets off an alarm. Something's not going right, and all of a sudden your entire focus goes onto that thing. It's like all these things that the person in this picture has in her mind. Imagine zooming in on one of those objects there in her mind. And you do that at the expense of everything else that's going on in your mind. And you zoom in and you go, well, of course this whole thing sucks. It's not working. I knew that would happen. You know, pessimistic people that think that way. But you got all this stream of other things that are happening in the world and in your world too. But you zoom into that one thing and you start getting fixated on it. Those of us that are living with trauma understand what it means to ruminate. And it's no fun ruminating. But that's kind of what we're doing. We're zooming in on something when we get triggered and we catastrophize it. And that affects the quality of our relationships. It affects the quality of our day, how we show up and interact with people at work. And over time, if we don't do something to address it, it affects our health and well-being. So I want you to write this acronym down, ZAP. You zoom in and catastrophize. And self-regulation begins by noticing when you do that. And for those of you who are like, Well, teach me the skill set of self-regulation. Zap is it. We zoom in, we catastrophize. We zoom in, we create a negative evaluation. Write this down. Negative emotion comes from negative evaluation. Negative emotion comes from negative evaluation. In cognitive behavioral theory, we just believe this idea that most of our emotions and feelings over the long term are driven by thought patterns and how we evaluate things and our cognitive biases that kind of get us in trouble and distort things from time to time and make them bigger than they actually are. It's akin to making mountains out of molehills. I know you've heard that term before. You're like, well, that thing, and you get hooked on that thing and you zoom in and you almost become paralyzed by focusing on, by ruminating about that thing, that issue in your life, that relationship problem, that confrontation at work, that mistake you made, that mistake somebody else made, that person that cut you off in traffic, that other person that pissed you off for some reason, that deal that didn't work out, that meeting that didn't go well. You zoom in on it and you get fixated on it. And when you do that, you're missing the bigger picture and you're missing the possibilities. So you zoomed into the problem and you missed the bigger picture and the possibilities around it. And that's what's important. That's why I draw it out for you. We're missing the bigger picture. We're missing all these open possibilities, that you see coming out of that person's mind. Yours is exactly the same way. You're missing all those other possibilities that are still in movement, or could be in movement if you would start to pay attention on them again. And so we zoom in and we catastrophize. We ruminate about one of those things, something that doesn't go well. And that's bad. That's bad. But that's not the killer. The killer is now, once you zoom in and catastrophize something, you then attach yourself to it. We zoom into a situation and we attach it to ourselves. This means we go, oh, this terrible thing, I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable with it. It makes me feel bad. We zoom in and we go, well, yep, that always happens to me. That always happens to me. I deserve it. I was such a dummy for even attempting it. And all of a sudden, the situation becomes about you. You blur the lines between what is actually happening and who you are. We think the problem is bigger than the person. Worse, we think the problem is the person. We think we are the problem. And that's how you zap progress. You think the problem is the person. You think you are part of the problem and no longer part of the solution. So self-regulation requires you to separate self from situation, problem from personhood. That's the work. That's the work of self-regulation, so that you can avoid attaching situations to yourself and personalizing it for yourself. So next time you feel something that's negative, a negative thought or feeling or emotion, just know there's a dial for that and you got to zap it. Okay? Imagine a dial on your chest. You can regulate your emotions. Imagine it's a dial. You can turn up your energy and enthusiasm and passion and happiness and joy and spirit and exuberance anytime you want. But you can also turn it down. You can also turn down the volume. Just pause when you feel yourself being triggered or starting to be triggered. Imagine a dial on your chest and you're feeling that upsetness start rising to the surface. Turn that dial down. Turn it down gently, slowly, imagining a dial in your heart. Turn it down. Start to regulate your response and ask yourself, am I attaching myself to this thing? Am I making it all about me? Because the inevitable, obvious next thing is, so we zoom in and catastrophize, we attach it to ourselves, and then we do one of three things. We procrastinate. In other words that we can use, we pause. And some people actually punish themselves when they have taken responsibility for something that they should never have personalized for themselves, that they should never have attached to. And when it starts to pull us down, when we feel that our confidence is being sucked away, our energy, our passion, our aliveness is being sucked out of us, we tend to pause. We tend to procrastinate. We zoom in and catastrophize. We attach ourselves to the situation or the problem. We attach it to the personhood, to ourself, and then we go, yep, I'm done. I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't like being that. I don't like doing that. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed for what happened. This is gonna turn out bad. I'm stupid. I'm dumb for even trying. I'm not worthy. I'm undeserving. Sure. See? This proves I suck. And then, well, I'm just going to stop. See, we often think that this person is different than a person that is able to regulate themselves. And what I love to teach you today is it's not. It's the same person. You can be that person too if you struggle, if you can identify with zooming in and catastrophizing, with taking on too much, taking too many things personally, and then procrastinating in the most important areas of your life, in pursuing your goals. You know, other people aren't bogged down as much with this. We all struggle with it to some degree, but some more than others. Some have a different reaction. We always think, for people that are more resilient, boy, she's so lucky. She has different reactions. He's so privileged, different reactions. And I know it's very controversial to tell people that all humans have a oneness to us, that we're very connected in our humanity in this modern world. But I believe in that. I believe we're all connected. I believe that we're all one. We all came from the same source that created us. We're all going to return to that source that created us. I know that we're different, but I believe we have a oneness to us. We're born and we're going to die. That there's a fate in that, and we have learned to be incredibly social and to collaborate beyond our kin more than any other species in the world. Most species, even those who build tools, even those who collaborate, they usually only do it within their family. Humans will work with somebody on the other side of the planet to build something amazing. I'm working with a forgiveness coach in Pakistan to build a deeper understanding of our superpower of forgiveness, which is a different topic for later. But their ability to do that, our ability to do that, to connect with anyone, to achieve something amazing is just incredible. And one of the things that differentiates people, though, is that you realize that we're all builders. We all want to progress. We all want aliveness. We want connection. When I was teaching meaningful pursuits, talking about, pursuing something that gives your life meaning, you probably didn't say, well, I don't want that. No, it's just that when we go for it, bam, something happens, and some people end up stopping when things go wrong or things get hard. And other people have this willingness to dial that in, summon the best of who they are, and take another step. Taking another step is self-regulation. Pushing through the discomfort is resilience. Pushing through that discomfort to create something amazing is resilience and vision. Keeping that moment, that momentum, and that progress, even though the situation might be hard or you feel inadequate or inferior, but you still step forward in the next right action of integrity over and over and over again. That's how you have an upward spiral in your life. The downward spiral is zap, is what you're looking at there. You're moving along, zap, zoom in, attach to it, procrastinate, pause the thing. Or let me get to the punishment part. If you found yourself in a cycle of self-hate where you punish yourself by repeating bad habits and bad patterns, and you've been doing it over and over and over again, it's time for a mental health check. This is the time to get a professional therapist. And if you're dealing with unresolved trauma or you're still working through it, you know exactly what I mean. And not a self-talk therapist or a talk therapist. You need a body-based therapist that understands that trauma is not about what happened to you. It's about what's going on in your body right now to help you deal with that, to help you heal that and resolve it. If you're stuck in a cycle of real self-sabotage and self-harm by the bad choices, like you keep choosing the bad people, you keep choosing the addiction, you keep choosing the wrong path, it's time to go, okay, maybe I'm doing that because there's something in me that I need to resolve. You can do that. You can do that. One of the dramatic things you learn about humans when you coach them is the incredible power of what a psychologist would call confirmation bias. We want to confirm what we believe. And if we believe we're inferior, inadequate, or unlovable, we're going to look for a reason to confirm that. We're going to look for a reason to verify it and confirm it. You've never known somebody who hated themselves, so they kept dating the bad ones. Let me say that again. And have you ever known someone who just couldn't stand themselves and they kept picking the wrong people to associate with, the wrong people to date? Ever known someone who knows every time they turn to alcohol or gambling or working endless hours that it causes terrible things to happen in their lives, especially in their relationships, but they keep doing it anyway, because they are not dealing with something within themselves that is asking for attention. That's coming from a deeper trauma that's causing that kind of self-harm. And that needs attention. That needs attention. It's going to continue to get in your way because, it's like asking yourself, am I doing this because I don't like myself for some reason, or I think less of myself? So don't ever hesitate to talk to people, to talk to qualified people that can help you, because procrastination just keeps you stuck. It keeps you stagnant. You're procrastinating because you're zooming in on something that's very uncomfortable to you and you think you can't handle it. That's it. You're procrastinating because there's something in your life you're zooming in on. You believe that you can't handle it, and so you zoom in. You think it's going to go bad, and you think you're insufficient, which is attaching self to the situation versus seeing the self as something that can overcome the situation. Because if you knew you could overcome it, you wouldn't procrastinate. You'd attack it. You'd get it done. But you think you're below the situation, so you stop. Does that make sense? Why do I procrastinate? You think you're below the situation. You think you're incapable of dealing with that situation. You don't believe in your ability to figure it out. You're below the task. Your hierarchy's off. Your architecture is off. You're not living into the frameworks that govern your life. Once you know that you're above something, you can handle it. It's that certain level of confidence that you have. I know I can overcome that. That's confidence. There's three things, right? The three downward paths. There's mental distortion, that negative thinking. You zoom in, attach it to yourself, and then you procrastinate. Well, what's the solution to that? The solution to when you're zapped, when you're being zapped, is the opposite of it, is to zoom out. It's to see the bigger picture and the possibilities there are for solving a problem when it comes up, or a situation that needs to be resolved, or a challenge that's super hard. Realize yourself is above the situation. If you believe in your ability to figure things out and you summon the best of who you are, and you have faith that you can and will figure it out, that builds confidence. That creates momentum. And that's how you move yourself beyond a situation that feels hard in that moment. But there's something more. What's the other killer of this process, of this progress that you're trying to make? I've talked about ZAP. I've talked about ZAP as it relates to negative thinking, mental distortion. But why do you shut down? Why do you shut down? Well, in a word, it's fatigue. Fatigue. Who got tired last year? Let me tell you, you are not tired. I'm not tired. You are not tired. Our whole way of thinking is so identity driven, isn't it? You're tired. Oh no, you feel fatigued. You have a feeling of fatigue. Who you are is not tired. Self above situation. Situation is feeling, because when we don't understand that, we tell ourselves this, I am this, I'm tired. You say it to people all the time. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. And confirmation bias says, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Let's keep doing all those things that make us tired, because I said I'm tired and everybody else is tired, so I'm going to be tired too. You think I'm joking? I'm someone who thinks old like old people do, because I believe I'm old. I'm done. That's not really me. I have too much aliveness in me to think that way. But I've heard this from so many successful people. I'm getting old. When I'm done, I go, you are done, or you're feeling done. These are two different things. You are done, or you're feeling done. And that was me a year ago when I made the life-changing decision to finally step away from a military career that I had spent 45 years in. I just was done with the environment that I was in. It was no longer feeding me. It was no longer supporting me. It did not understand me or value me the way that I valued myself. And I knew that I was up for so much more. But that wasn't the place where I was going to get it. So I was done with that place, but I wasn't done. See the difference? I just want you to know that fatigue is the true thief of our dreams. People always say it's comparison, comparison with other people. No, we can work through comparison, but fatigue is a big deal. Fatigue is inside. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it cautiously, because I do understand that there's this thing called chronic fatigue. And just like I'm not talking about therapy here, I'm not here to address you as a physician either, right? I understand there are things that are well beyond our control with chronic fatigue. So some of you that have chronic fatigue, I get it. This is different. That's different. The issue is, if you have chronic fatigue, your physician's still going to ask you, though, to change your routines. Set up a new routine. They're still going to ask you to have goals. Set goals for yourself. Figure out your desires, and then set up routines and the outcomes you need to move yourself toward those desires. They're going to ask you to take daily healthy tasks and actions to improve yourself. There's still empowerment there, even if it doesn't feel like it. You still have to try, right? You still have to do it. And I know it's super hard, and I understand that. Believe me, I know, I understand. I do understand. So the word that I want you to get in your mind and write this down too is combat fatigue. Combat fatigue. You're in a battle with fatigue, and you cannot let fatigue keep winning so many battles for you in your life. It just gets you further and further and further behind where you want to be. I want you to understand this, because most people write, oh, I want to lose weight. I'm like, no, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and lose weight. I want you to battle fatigue. That's the secret. A lot of people lose weight and they're still tired. You know what I'm talking about? Like, see, they're in the wrong battle. They're in a self-conscious battle. I need to lose some weight. I'm like, I want you to beat fatigue. Not that it won't be there. Remember, the dial fatigue will be there. Just like anything else, we can dial it up and we can dial it down based on our thoughts and our physiology. And most people's actual fatigue is not some long running thing. Usually, you can look at the last 3 months and see how they burned themselves out, how poorly they slept, how poorly they ate, which is actually good news because it means most of us can significantly shift this. Some people say they outsource their fatigue. No, you don't understand, JP. My parents have these genetics. You don't understand. I grew up in a household like this. You don't understand. I'm dealing with it at work. Like I'm like, no, it's not that I don't understand. The question is, what are you doing to combat it? I understand these things are hard. The issue is, what are you doing to combat your fatigue? How are you going to beat it this year? Too many of your days lead to fatigue, to one more latte to see if you can make it through the day. Most people, they say, oh well, they're distracted, so they're scrolling. I go, they're tired. Most people are scrolling because they're mentally fatigued. All day long, they're scrolling. They're making these judgments, these thoughts. They're thinking. They're on what's called mental overload. And that's fatiguing. Are you good at overloading your mind with scrolling? Combat that fatigue. Everyone always thinks and goes to physiology, like there's something wrong in your body. There's something going on in your body if you feel fatigued. And I'm like, yeah. And don't think the mental aspect isn't just as powerful, that you keep stacking so many things that you can't even go to the bathroom without scrolling 1,000 posts. Sounds funny, sounds unbelievable, but that's what happens. Do you know that every single one of those scrolls is consuming your mental bandwidth? All that scrolling is mental work. Every single time, every single post. Do I like it? Do I judge it? Do I want it? Do I want to share it? It's constant. It's constant. And you're like, why am I so tired? I'm like, how many hours did you scroll today? Because I can correlate your fatigue to your levels of distraction or overload. It's why, if I can give you a phrase, this year, make more space. Make more space for peace. Don't pick up the phone when you wake up first thing in the morning. Just wander around the house. Do something different. Drink water. Read something that's enriching and empowering. Stretch. Meditate. Anything but picking up your phone. Go for a walk with your thoughts. Do you know the greatest creatives in the world were walkers? They loved to walk, and they would walk and they would just think. Do you remember just thinking? When's the last time you did that? Let me give you my aha moment for me about that. It was the beginning of the year, and I was working with a client, and he was sharing his schedule with me, and he had these blocks of time blocked out on his calendar. I didn't ask what they were until one day I was just super curious and got the better of me. And after a few months, well, what is that? He goes, well, that's my thinking block. I go, what do you do there? He goes, no, I just literally sit and think, just like Einstein did. He just sat at his desk and thought. He didn't need to consume more papers. He didn't need to scroll more. He just needed space to sit and think through problems. See, what happens today is because we're uncomfortable with the problem, we don't want to think about it, so we distract ourselves. I was just teaching somebody who's a great friend of mine that the difference that he falls in this position of starting new projects all the time, and he starts them all the time. And if you're like that, you're probably bitten by the start new projects syndrome. And what this usually comes from is not a lack of clarity or an overabundance of creativity. It's like you're just you're just fatigued, and starting something new will help you feel like you are making more progress faster. So build up making space for peace, make more time for thinking. You know, you're not procrastinating. You're finding pleasure in novel things that are easier to understand when you start new things. And you're turning away from what's uncomfortable or underperforming. It's the same reason people often cheat in relationships. It's the same reason entrepreneurs start too many businesses and don't actually manifest one into a real business. This business or this project got hard and it's underperforming, so let me start something new and get some radical lift. Okay? There's a different level of willingness that goes into following through and finishing something out. But if you keep burning yourself out, which is what most people do by consuming versus thinking, they think they're mentally tired because they've been thinking. I'm like, you haven't thought all day. You've consumed all day, and you're tired from consuming. You're tired from scrolling. Scrolling is consumption too. Okay, remember that. You know, remember, your fatigue is because you keep cramming your body full of food it doesn't need. You're cramming your mind full of stuff it doesn't need. Garbage in, garbage out. And the garbage out is fatigue and frustration towards others. So be aware of mental fatigue and physical fatigue. Notice when it's setting in. You got to combat fatigue. Okay, last big idea, and this is so important of why we quit. Why we quit something. It's because of unhappy, negative peers. Look, the social dynamic around them, it's just one of these three killers. These are your enemies this year, right? The enemies, unhappy, negative peers who are zapping you all day long. They zoom in on all the problems and they tell you their problems and they tell you what the problems are of something that you're working on. They say it's not possible. They don't think you're enough. They don't think it's worth the effort. They think it's a waste of time. You know, in military circles, we have a word bog sat, bunch of guys sitting around talking. They don't see the value in team building and working together toward a common cause. And they make sure to remind you of how bad you are, how much time that you're wasting, how much you suck, how awful you are. And they tell you, just stop, just give it up. They're zapping you all day long. Yeah. Oh yeah, you could do that dream. You could pursue that project. You can reorganize the organization and make it better. But you know, all these problems are going to come up. And nobody said you could do it anyway. And you know, you've never done something like that before. You just probably, it's just too risky. They just zapped you when they do that. That's what they say. Oh, you only have that dream. A lot of people try that. It fails most of the time. You've never done it before, so you're too old. You know, I don't know. Your sister never did anything like that. You know, I don't know. I think people will make fun of you. So, you know, just be careful. Don't take too many risks. You're getting zapped when that happens. And once we understand what our desires are, have good routines and goals and tasks in place, the only things usually shutting us down is our own negative mental thinking, our own allowance of fatigue by not doing the things we already know we need to be doing around zappers. And now we're going to be careful of those zappers, right? We're going to hang around strivers instead. You'll be amazed at the level of aliveness and connections and meaningful pursuits and growth that creates in your life when you just change the people and that you surround yourself by and the environment that you're in, just by sheer momentum when you do the work. And when you do, you'll invite more fulfillment into your life than you ever knew existed. And that brings me to my last point, my program that's designed around the idea of creating community to help you have the best, most fulfilling year of your life. It's called the Fulfillment Formula. Because at the end of the day, isn't this really what we all want? to finish each day, week, month, quarter, and year feeling more fulfilled with higher levels of sustained joy and happiness and engagement in life. This is my big desire this year, to bring this to you. And I'm going to show you what this looks like very quickly. We've run over time a little bit, but I want to show this to you. And then I have a special invitation at the end. So please stay with me. It's going to be worth it for you. Look, it all starts with this idea. If you want to be fulfilled, you have to believe you can be and live into it. Summon the best of who you are and commit to it. So it's crucial that you have a strong, vibrant growth mindset. We teach you how to do that as part of this program. And if you already have a growth mindset, you learn to make it better, because I guarantee you there are areas that you can improve. This is all based on Carol Dweck's best-selling book and research that indicates having a growth mindset is absolutely necessary if you're going to achieve your desires. Next. Then if you want to be fulfilled, you have to be willing to learn the lessons that are waiting for you that are in the past, and then release the energy around it. This is an area almost none of the big name motivational speakers talk about. All the ways you give your power away. And believe me, you're doing it every single day. You're depleting your energy by the thoughts you think, by spending most of your time, a big part of your day, regretting the past and worrying about the future. Believe me, most people are freely giving their power away every day in this way. And you need all the power and energy you can generate to achieve your desires and live a fulfilled life. And this powerful module in the course is where a lot of breakthroughs happen that change the trajectory of people's lives. It's so exciting and so amazing to watch the transformation that takes place. I have been privileged to have a front row seats with some of the most amazing, beautiful clients that I have ever had the privilege of working with. Those breakthroughs, I want for you to learn the lessons of the past and then release the energy around it. Next, if you want to be fulfilled, you must already see yourself there. Sounds simple, right? And the way we achieve that is to do another self-assessment to get even clearer on your deepest desires. My friend Mike Dooley taught me this simple truth. Thoughts become things. The thoughts you're thinking right now are creating your future. So if you want more fulfillment out of your life, if you want deeper connections, better relationships with people, happier social engagements, more fulfillment in your career, you need to work on how you think and then manifest the future you truly desire. This is such a fun part of the course because this is where you get to use your imagination and your creativity to make what you want. You're going to love this module. And finally, if you want to be fulfilled every day, you've got to be willing to develop the high performance habits that take you there, that take you to your deepest desires. These are the research and science-backed practices that lead to higher levels of happiness, joy, and engagement in the most important parts of your life. I'm talking about your career and your personal growth, your relationships, your personal, professional, and social relationships, your health, your mood, your nutrition, your sleep, your well-being, and most of all, your spirit. These are the essential habits and skills that you must learn to not only envision your future, but to create it and have it and revel in it, because you can't go to the next level of your life with the habits and skills and mindset that got you this far. You just can't. You deserve so much more. That yearning that you feel inside of you for more is calling you to go after it, to commit to it, to decide, to live an extraordinary quality of life this year. And that's what I want to do with you this year. So who's this for? Well, I believe this can change the lives of everyone, but I'm starting with my people first. I'm starting with my tribe. So if you're a veteran or a family member of a veteran, you may or may not be living with unresolved trauma. It doesn't matter, but you have a high sense of agency. That means you believe that you are the captain of your ship, and you just want to drive that ship to your deepest desires. You love challenges, you love growth and the performance edge of high achievement and service. And you're ready to achieve more in every important area of your life. And this program is for you. No one else teaches you how to unleash your superpowers. Those superpowers you already have inside of you as a prerequisite for being more fulfilled and achieving your greatness. Now, to get into this program is actually very easy. You just need to have a discussion with me. And in that discussion, I tell you more about the program, more of what you can accept, and then you can decide if it's for you. And I can decide if I want to accept you, because mindset and determination and the decision to have an extraordinary life, extraordinary quality of life this year is a prerequisite to getting in. So I'm looking for the highest performers I can find who want to be, know, and do even more this year. So if you want to commit to making this year the best year of your life, if you're ready to decide, commit, and summon the best of who you are every day as part of a community to create your best year, I'm ready to commit to you. And the fulfillment formula is your ticket to sustained levels of higher living, success, joy, and fulfillment. Just scan the QR code or go to my website there and register to book a call with me. It's really, really that simple. I hope that this has served you. I am so grateful to have been able to share the three barriers that you need to crush every day to live an extraordinary quality of life. And again, scan the QR code to book a call to get into the fulfillment formula. I can't wait to meet you. I can't wait to talk with you and learn about you and build this community from the ground up to create something special, particularly with veterans and their families. And until next time, I just want to thank you for being a part of this and challenge you. Remember, live fully. To live fully, love with all of your heart, and lead others to their best life, just as I am here to serve you to achieve the same thing. Here's to your greatness. Aloha.